Congressman, I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. The president has been very critical of Jerome Powell for what he's doing with interest rates. What's your assessment of how Jay Powell is doing at the Fed?
Well, number one, I think it's a little silly, those who criticize the president for criticizing the Fed. I mean, these guys have 14-year terms, I think it is. They write their own budget, so they're not wallflowers. They ought to be able to take a little criticism. And frankly, the Fed ought to be listening not only to the president, they ought to be listening to a lot of people. They do not have a monopoly on smart PhD economists, number one. And independence at the Fed and congressional oversight and accountability, those are not mutually exclusive concepts. So that's the first observation I would make. All in all, I think Jay Powell is frankly off to a good start. I do believe that we need to come to a neutral rate. I think the footprint of the Fed is much too large in the economy. We can quibble over, are we there yet? Are we almost there yet? Personally, the data I've seen, I believe we're either there or we're almost there. And so, you know, Jay Powell has a tough job. He didn't necessarily create it, although he was, you know, on the Board of Governors when this incredible, historic period of quantitative easing took place. But you cannot have this long duration of artificially low interest rates for this period of time and not expect there to be a difficult job to unwind the balance sheet and reach something of a normal monetary policy.
He's also one of the guys who wanted to end that QE program. So it sounds like you're saying he's doing a good job. He's been doing the right thing.
Well, I think in general, yes. I would be concerned about further rate increases. Again, I think we're probably approaching, you know, the neutral rate today, and so, but that's his job to figure it out. But I don't, you know, again, I do believe the Fed needs to be subject to examination, and frankly, they can be subject to criticism as well, as long as, again, they get to ultimately call the shots.
Congressman, let's talk jobs. We've got the jobs numbers out in an hour and 15 minutes. You've got Jobs 3.0 Act you want to talk about. Tell us about your bill.
Well, thank you. I mean, the economy of the today is doing quite well. The question is, what will the economy of tomorrow look like? As recently as 2016, entrepreneurial activity was at a generational low. Small business lending was half of what it was 20 years ago. You look at IPOs. We've been talking about China. China has, I want to say, 38% of the world's IPOs.
One in four came public from China in America this year.
Well, in America, we're down to about 11%. We have half the IPOs that we had 20 years ago. Our public companies are, frankly, larger, older, bigger, and basically in America, we have too many old cars in garages, not enough new startups. So
even though 2018 was a stellar year on IPOs.
Well, again, this is 2016. Once President Trump came in the administration, we've seen a nice turnback. But ultimately, listen, I'm the father of two teenagers. The companies that are going to drive the economy in their peak earning years probably haven't even been formed yet. And so we have a set of 32 bills that are based on what is it we can do in the entire, you know, ecosystem of our startups to get them to deal with easing angel investment, easing them going public, and frankly, once staying public, and so that these nano caps and micro caps don't wither on the vine. It's a very strong bipartisan bill out of the House, 406 to 4, and yet the Senate has done nothing. It's inexcusable. It's the only thing left in this lame duck session that could move the economic growth needle, and not so much for today, but even more importantly for tomorrow, and to compete with China so we can have more IPOs in America and fewer in China.
By the way, tax cuts 2.0, dead?
I think the rumors of its demise may be greatly exaggerated, so I still have a lot of confidence in Kevin Brady to still put that in our stockings.
Congressman, it's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
Thanks very much. Jeb Hensarling joining us there.